Hi! Today we'll be die cutting and embossing to make a bold and beautiful floral card using the new Stampin' Up! Bloom and Grow stamp set and coordinating Budding Blooms dies. We'll be using one of the new Stampin' Up! 3D embossing folders for our bold and beautiful floral card. I'm Shelly Godby, the owner and CEO of Stampin Smiles, and for 18 years I've been teaching others how to create their own hand-stamped smiles. I'll also be showing you an accessory to get great results with the new 3D embossing folders. Here's a closer view of the Bloom and Grow stamp set with the beautiful floral sprays and the coordinating Budding Blooms dies. And when you order the two of these together using the special bundle item number I've listed right here, you'll save 10% on both. So looking at the picture, don't let the size of these fool you. We'll be using the smallest one, but they're only pictured at 70%. So look how big this really is. Wow, huh? And we'll be coloring with the Stampin' Blends, and for that reason, the Whisper White Thick cardstock is recommended. Whenever you're using white cardstock for stamping, I highly recommend the Whisper White or the Whisper White Thick cardstock because it has a smooth, tight finish to give you crisp, clean images. It's just wonderful. And because we're using Stampin' Blends, we'll use the Tuxedo Black Memento ink pad. So we'll take this lid off. There we go. All right, and get this inked up really well. Okay, turn that over. Let me see, yeah, that looks good. Okay, we'll come in the center. We don't have to be perfectly centered. We'll be die cutting this, but, and we can see where we're stamping, so let's press everywhere. Oh, very, very nice. All right, so we'll be die cutting this with the coordinating die. And I always like to do my die cutting before I color in case I mess up. Now with these new Stampin' Up! Dies, you'll see how they fit right to the image, and that isn't as likely, but still, old habits, right? So let me grab my die cutting machine. We're going to use this die to die cut the floral spray we just stamped. So we're going to need that die to hold in place. And the best way I found to do that is with a magnetic platform. If your die cutting machine will hold the magnetic platform, I recommend it. So that's the start of the thickness we need, and then a cutting pad, and then we have our stamped flowers and the die. And these new Stampin' Up! Dies are just wonderful, these open dies, because you fit it right to the image. It will still leave, if it's meant to be, a white area around it, where before we had to try to balance that white area, where with this, you just follow the image. So it's going to take me a little bit of jockeying to get it just right, but wow, still a lot quicker than cutting that by hand, huh? So here we go. All right, without sticking my head in there, that's looking pretty good. It's looking, okay, see right here, so right to that image. Isn't that cool? And so then to finish it, we need another cutting pad. Mine's getting pretty warped. I'm gonna hold it to get it going. Once I do, I'm okay. All right, and then look at that. We still have the white area all around it, but all we did was fit it up to it. Okay, so we're not done. We're going to do some more die cutting and embossing. We're going to make a window. So what I have here is some Whisper White cardstock, and we'll be using the, oh gracious, the name just escaped me. Layering Squares, right? We're Layering Squares dies. We want this one. Look at all these squares. We can do a lot of layering. And then we'll put it on here. We're also going to be embossing, but there's two reasons I didn't do the embossing first. The first is, you know, the flatter the cardstock is, the better I can hold it in place with magnetic platform, the die, right? And if I were to emboss first and then put it through again and die cut, it's going to flatten out what we just embossed. So start with the die cutting. All right, so same idea. And then our cutting pad again. And the warped ones, you know, they'll work, but they are a little bit more work. There we go. Just had to be able to get it underneath there, get it going. All right. I think I need to invest in a new cutting pad. And so then we'll save that square. We'll be able to use that for something else later. But then we have this. All right, we got our square cut in there for our window. Now we want to make it prettier. And this is where I'm going to show you something that's relatively new. And we need to change our sandwich out. So with the Big Shot die cutting machine, I need the magnetic platform. And we're going to be using the Scripty 3D embossing folder. And so we've got all this pretty script. It'll be so elegant with our card. Now, it's recommended with the 3D embossing folders that you get them wet first. So what I have here is a Stampin Spritzer just with water in it, and I'm going to spritz it. I'm going to do that off camera so I'm not spraying all over the table. I'm just spritzing water on here. So now that it's wet, it takes the image even better. And I tried one without it. And I'd show you, but it really is, you know, on the white, it's a subtle image. It wouldn't show up well for you, but we're going to put this on here. And it's just much better misting it first. And then we don't need a bottom cutting pad. And we put this in, I don't know, the spine first. Stampin' Up! Recommends, my husband says it'll help hold it in place. Thought, okay. And here's the new accessory to use with the Stampin' Up! 3D embossing folders. The cutting pad that we just used is not quite thick enough. See the difference? It's not thick enough. And so if you put this on, it's just going to go through and not do a thing. If you try to use two of these, it's too thick. So this is the perfect size. So the alternative would be to use the standard cutting pad and then, you know, shim with cardstock. And I haven't done it because if you've got a tool for me to use, I mean, it's only $10. I'm going to get the tool. Make my life easier. All right. And so that's our sandwich. Let me go ahead and crank that through. And here we go. Let me show you this. So pretty. Look at that. And it's really nice and deeply embossed too. So we do need to let that dry, but we'll be using this on our bold and beautiful floral card. We've got our die cutting and embossing done, so now it's time to color. And I'll be using Stampin' Blends markers. We're going to start with the shaded Spruce Dark Stampin' Blends, and I'm going to use the finer tip for these veins on the leaves. All right, so this is pretty fine detail here. So what I learned was have a light touch to try to preserve that detail. Okay, so light touch, go over the veins that are already drawn for us. All right, and then we'll take the light shaded spruce. This time I could use the bigger tip and color these in. Isn't that pretty? Very pretty color. And then with the smaller tip, boy, coloring's just addictive. You just want to color it all in, don't you? It's hard to stop. All right, I'm going to use a smaller tip for a little bit more control, for actually good control for the stems. Instead of leaving those blank. Here we go. Very, very nice. So to save a little bit of time, because all those are the same, I have one done with all the leaves and the stems colored. Okay, so now I'm going to start with the flower in the center, and I'm going to color that center first. Okay, here's how I want it. And what I have here is a Pineapple Punch Dark Stampin' Blends marker. And we'll color that center in first. This is one of the 2018-2020 in colors. And we have Daffodil Delight, but there's something about the Pineapple Punch that I end up going to it. Really like the deep, bright yellow I can get for my flowers. So we're going to use, for our center flower, the nice, bold and beautiful, lovely lipstick. Another one of the 2018-2020 in colors. And color this in. So I'm going to color first with the light and then do the shading afterwards. So whatever makes you happy, that's how I tend to do it, although I did just the opposite for the leaves. I started with the darkest color and then filled in. So I started with my shading. It's easier to add color than to take it away. So that's why I like to start with my lighter color usually. Okay, so filling this all in. There's just something about coloring. It's so peaceful. And this lovely lipstick really is a lovely color. The name that they picked, lipstick, is just the best. To try to name it anything else, it just looks like what you'd see on a woman wearing. There we go. Okay, so we've got that. Now for our shading with the dark, and I'll still use that larger tip. So I'm going to start with the upturned petals. Okay, and it tends to be darker around the center, so let's add some color there. There we go. And okay, down here, that one's upturned too. That's going on to this other flower. So then we want to separate the leaves, and this top petal would make a shadow over the one underneath. So basically we're outlining the petals, and it does help with separation. And if you could come up here a little bit if you like. And look, quickly we're done. So if you don't like quite so to be so drastic, you could come back with your light and blend a little bit, add a little bit more, because color on color gets deeper. Oh, there we go. Now they're rather flowing together. So then for this flower over here, we're going to use Pool Party. So I've got my deep rich colors of the shaded Spruce, the lovely lipstick, and I wanted a light touch for something else, so Pool Party. We'll fill this in. It is easier to color a larger image had I colored this before die cutting it, but die cutting takes no time at all, where coloring does, and if I didn't get a nice border around it, I wouldn't have been too happy with myself. That I'd have to start all over. Okay, and then I think we'll use the fine tip on this and do that same idea, although we've got such a small area, we're just adding some shading. And that'll give it some depth, and it looks oh so nice. Isn't that great? So quick, so quick. And so we have our last flower over here, and we'll be using Night of Navy. And then we have these little buds, and I decided that they were lovely lipstick light buds. Let's fill those in. Really a pretty stamp set. Did we? Oh, here's one. There we go. I like how that touch of color just really adds a lot. Okay, so Night of Navy, deep and rich, but this really is a dark color. So what I want to do, of course, start with the light. Try to just put down one layer of it, because if you color over top, like I was just showing you, it'll get deeper. So let's just try not to make brush strokes back over top. But I wanted these three deep colors with my lighter one. Okay. There we go. Looking good. And so then, again, like we've done with the other two, I'm going to use that finer tip smaller tip again. Wow. Dimension and shading. This is the depth by using color, and the other is actual dimension, right? Depth by providing it. So if you get done and you think, boy, it's a little bit darker than I'd like, well, the color lifter. So I want Night of Navy, but maybe not quite so much. So I'm going to look at that. Still have that definitely Night of Navy look, but it lifted some of that color where I can see the lines even better, the definition of the stamped lines. And we're done with that. How quick was that, right? All right, so now for our greeting, we're going to stamp right on, and my base of my card is Whisper White Thick because we want a nice sturdy base and we want really good cardstock for stamping on. But I like to stamp on a flat surface. We'll open it up, and this we're just going to place. We're not ready to adhere that yet, but this is going to go over the corner. Ah, there we go. And what I love is, okay, my canvas is the full card, and I like going off the edge but still staying within my canvas because I need to fit in an envelope and without bending anything up. I don't want anything to have to be folded over. And so I get to go off the edge, have that feeling of going off the edge, but still staying in the confines. Okay. All right. So back with our Tuxedo Black Memento ink pad. And then I have Thank You from the bottom of my heart. And that's one of the several greetings in the Bloom and Grow stamp set. Okay. So let's ink this up. And see, now that we know where those flowers will be, because the first one I did, I went too high. I didn't want this terribly high. And there we go. Oh, that looks so good. All right, so with this on here, so this attach with Stampin Dimensionals. That's that dimension we're talking about, because we have the window, so that's giving us dimension, and the embossing helps. And this will be a little warped because we got it wet. So take your bone folder and smooth it out, okay? Or you could put it between a couple books and smooth that out. And I was really generous with Stampin Dimensionals to give it a lot of support. And here is my finished card. Didn't that turn out pretty? So lots of support with Stampin Dimensionals. This is added with Stampin Dimensionals. And then for a little bit more color, well, those are lovely lipstick too, in the Happiness Blooms enamel dots. And so scattered those around, and as Grandma said, you do things in odd numbers. We have three, and we have one. And it's just really a bold and beautiful floral card with a Bloom and Grow stamp set. And I'll have a link to my blog post with the video so you can, for the dimensions, so you can make this card easier too. If you'd like to make my bold and beautiful floral card with the Bloom and Grow stamp set, all the supplies are listed below the video and available to order now in my online store, www.shopwithshelly.com. I'm Shelly Godby, teaching you how to create hand stamped smiles. Thanks for watching.